Hello everybody, it is myself, Holly Tinsley and Steve. We are back with another episode of our currently named Spotlight Chewing. Steve, how are we feeling about the name? Are we set on this now?
I once I said it, episode 1, it's like, okay, well, that's what it is.
So, yeah, I like that, yeah. Best attitude to have. Yeah. That we've decided now, that's it, no further recourse. But yeah, we are back again to chat about books, games, comics, music, artwork, biscuits, gravy, whatever else happens to pop up during the course of the conversation. The main point of us being here, however, is to put a spotlight on all the cool indie projects, creatives and artists that you may not have heard of and probably should have. And as such, we have brought another friend along, somebody who has come to talk about two of my favourite things in the entire world, which are writing books and epic facial hair. DB Rook, how are you, sir?
What an introduction. Thank you. Yes, I'm very well. I'm very hairy and I'm ready to go.
Amazing. So for those who aren't aware, DB is part of one of what might be probably the best named groups of... is it a book review group, would you call yourselves? A blogger group?
Yeah, it's kind of just a bit of a panel where really we go off on tangents, but the basis is books and beards.
Yeah, so this is, of course, the Four Beardsman of the Bookpocalypse, which is just 10 out of 10 on the name. I have to give you that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a labour of love. As I say, it's not very scripted, it's not very organised, but we have a lot of fun and we have a lot of beards.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit, I should have tried to come a bit harder with the beard game today. I didn't quite have time to grow one in before we recorded, but,
It's the thought that counts.
It is. Next episodes, I'll at least grow one in to rival Steve's, if not, your own DB.
I think you said unorganized and tangents, and so you'll fit in fine. Yeah, we'll be good. We're perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, give us a little bit of a rundown then about what you've been doing recently, book-wise, game-wise, projects that you've got going on.
Okay, so book-wise, I am halfway through the sequel to my debut, Callous and Crow, which is going very slowly because I keep doing podcasts and playing RPGs and various other things. So it's coming, but it's taking its time. Beardsman-wise, so we got our podcast together as just a bit of a panel to chat about books. So there's me, Tom Buckbeard, David T. List, and Matt Sorensen, who aka the Beard of Darkness, the legend. And we just wanted to have a bit of a chat about books and talk about beards and just generally be four blokes doing book things. But we always had a bit of a slant where we wanted to introduce RPGs in some shape or form. So we dipped our toes in. We asked our audience whether it would be entertaining. We tried to get some feedback, and we kind of settled on a bizarre hybrid of a homebrew system based on Chaosium's basic RPG. So it's all in percentages. So anyone watching can kind of pretty much figure out what we're trying to roll, what we're trying to, the odds of things succeeding. And we sort of set off on this RPG journey thinking, is anyone going to be at all interested in watching us play a game? So then we invented the ultimate mechanic, which we still don't know if is a success or not. But so Tom Buckbeard is our DM, and he's incredible. The premise is, because we're in a roundabout way of playing our own characters, our base skills in certain things are determined by us telling anecdotes about our real life to get the base skills. So there's not a lot of work going on in sort of backstage. Hopefully it's entertaining. So something will happen in the adventure, and somebody will say, what, give us an example of how good you are at somersaults. And we'll have to come up with some random live anecdote of real life, and then Tom will say, right, 20%. So that's the kind of hybrid of gaming / interview / on the cuff anecdotes, which is sometimes more challenging than you'd realise. But we've played 2 games so far. We've enjoyed it. I don't know if anyone else has, but we're intending to keep going.
I mean, I think the concept in itself is genius, because essentially what you're saying is that within this game that you've created, you're being rewarded depending on how interesting your real life is, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. With some kind of... because it is actually us, we kind of have to base it slightly on reality. So it's not always going to be good, but we do our best, yeah. And hopefully it's entertaining.
Yeah, I mean...
There was the first game. There was I ended up having a skill in nasal perception, which kind of in RPGs things evolve, don't they? And things just keep coming and changing and warping. And that character is now becoming its own thing due to my insane life and my anecdotes.
I mean, and it's a great way of doing an author interview, really, in a completely different way. And this is a conversation that myself and Steve have had recently, talking about indie authors and how they can stand out from the crowd and do something that is a little bit more unusual, a little bit more engaging. And, you know, I did catch I missed the first session that you did. I did catch the second one, which was absolutely great. And what I thought was interesting as well is not just hearing you guys chatting, but seeing the participation in the chat on, you know, YouTube itself.
Yeah. That has been a slightly challenging aspect, because on the standard sort of panel podcast, it's very interactive and we're chatting away with all the comments. On this, because we're actually trying to play a game, it's quite difficult to keep your eye on the comments as well. But that's exactly what we want. We want people to throw stuff in, and somehow we'll weave it into the machine that we're trying to construct. So yeah, I think it's going to get better with time and sort of more practice, but lots of fun.
Yeah. For the people that didn't see the first 2 episodes, is there like a storyline that you guys are following, or is it very much just throw it at the wall and see what happens?
There is a storyline, but we said from the beginning that kind of anything goes. So we basically came out of a vault in some kind of post-apocalyptic world, and that was it, really. Then obviously Tom's got some story up his sleeve, but it really was, let's expect to go off on any tangent that we want, just so it's colourful and just so it's sort of it's fun, and it's not just, we really don't want it to be everyone tune in and watch us play a game, because I don't think that would be much fun at all. So we're trying our best to make it as diverse and different as possible, and maybe you'll learn some crazy history about four beardy blokes.
I have to ask, who do you think's had the best anecdotes so far?
Oh God. See, everyone has a different version of anecdotes as well. It's really difficult. So you kind of, and because it's a prompt from the game, suddenly you find yourself going, "Oh my God, I really need to talk about archery or some random thing," and it's so difficult on the fly. I've been talking about in my day job, we had a rat infestation and we had dead rats in our floorboards, and I was able to this is where the nasal perception came from. I was able to pinpoint where the rat corpses were in the floorboards so that we could dig them up. That earned me some kind of skill in nasal perception. We've had all kinds of weird and wonderful. I think Matt had some kind of firearms experience, which was getting a little bit topical, and then he got his skill in firearms. It's crazy. I can't think of anything that's the best so far, but keep watching.
So I'm interested, Steve, from your perspective, as someone who's kind of been part of the blogger community and done interviews and things like that. Have you come across anything like this concept before, and kind of what do you think about, doing unusual things like this for interviews?
Well, I've never heard of anything like that before. That's a really great. I mean, I'm really impressed because that's just like such a great way to not only play games so you appeal to the people who enjoy the games, who want to learn more about you, but it's also an interactive experience so people can learn about you but also follow along on the game. So no, I think it's a great idea. I think it's brilliant, actually. I'd like to do something like that. I think it would be tough, though, and it will come with time. I think interacting with the chat is just one of those things you'll get a rhythm with eventually, but maybe you can find someone with like a 5 o'clock shadow to man the chat for you. Not quite a beardsman, but maybe you can find someone to kind of manage the chat. That would be
good, yeah, absolutely. And as soon as we've got our foundation solid, then we'll be knocking on your door, Holly. Get yourself in the game. That's the plan, to sort of get as many people involved as possible. And
oh God, I'll try and think. I'll start thinking of some interesting stories now that could apply to any scenario.
Yeah.
I think probably the most challenging part would be to line up the scheduling, because people are, I'm assuming they're all over the world. So I think that'd be the hardest part, is getting everyone together at the same time for, to dedicate a block. That's, as we found out, Holly, the first episode, it's not always the easiest thing. It's time zones can be a pain.
Yeah, we've got 2 in the UK and 2 over in America. So yeah, it does work out that we can roughly sort of get together about 9 o'clock UK, because the other guys' work commitments kind of allow that, but it is a huge issue trying to keep it regular and trying to keep your kids happy and your boss happy and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely, it's the balance, isn't it? One thing I did notice, actually, when I was doing a bit of reconnaissance before this episode, because as much as I say I do plan some things, and DB, I was having a little look on your website, and you actually have written a couple of gaming guides, I believe. So tell us a little bit about that. And, is this something that you do a lot of, game writing?
I've done a lot, kind of in my bedroom, so to speak, over the years. I'm a big sort of rules enthusiast. I love all that stuff. I love all the mechanics and the concepts of it all. And I as a kid, I used to do loads and loads of writing. These days, if I get the urge, I will go off and I'll find a system and I'll sort of write some kind of add-on to it. There's a couple on my website, like you say. It's not like an extensive catalogue or anything, but there's a few things sat on websites that I earn a bit of money off, and I pump it into my writing of the novels. So it's kind of nice little circle. But it's only when I suddenly get that urge to go, wow, we need to put zombies in some random system, and I go off and kind of get my structured sort of maths brain involved. And I've written stuff that is just all tables, like not even any writing, no words whatsoever, just hundreds of tables that for some reason scratches that itch at the time. And it's out there. I don't make a big deal of it because I don't know how good it is, but some people do buy it, and like I say, it helps pay for the promo and stuff of the book.
Would you ever consider doing your own system based on one of your books at all?
Well, I absolutely did. Early days of the book, I wrote a board game that was not an RPG. It was specifically not an RPG because I wanted to keep it a bit more simple. And I got so far, and it was kind of going well. But then it was another thing where, yeah, you're working on this passion project, but you need to get your book written. And I just keep having to slap myself a little bit and step back and get back on the book. And I absolutely want the Wayward World Chronicles to be in some kind of RPG realm at some point. It was almost written to be an open world that can kind of go anywhere. So one day I will absolutely focus and make that happen. But I do need to write some books first.
See, this is what I do. I just try and distract people because I do it myself. So I feel better when other people procrastinate by doing things like making games and holding events and things.
Yeah. lots of dopamine, but not a lot of progress.
You mentioned earlier you're working on the second book. Tell us a bit, because obviously there's going to be a lot of people that have heard of the first book because it's been on social media. I've seen reviews and things going out for it. But for those who haven't seen it, just give us a bit of a overview on kind of what it's about, what people can expect from it.
Okay, so it's a Western-themed odyssey of redemption in a post-apocalyptic world. So it's kind of got a lot of... it's a massive clash of elements, which hopefully I did well. So it starts off very Western. The whole idea of the world is that after an apocalyptic event, people kind of emerge from the devastation, and the world's been warped. The seas are full of huge monsters and completely uncrossable seas. So each sort of continent kind of come out of this disaster, and they search the sort of popular culture and the remnants that were left behind of maybe this world, maybe not this world, and they believe that's the history that was before the event. So we've got like an entire Western thing. They think that that's their history, so they all kind of develop technology and cultures based on Western. On other land masses, they're all doing different things, and they're all making their own sort of judgment. And the story is set when somebody finally figures out how to cross the sea, and there's kind of a clash of cultures. So throw in a kind of semi-vampire addict and his little ward, and a lot of revenge and redemption, and a bit of steampunk and a sprinkle of horror, and there we are. Got a lot in it.
You got it on your list there, Steve?
I do.
Your list that never ends, that I keep adding to.
It never ends. No, I think. Well, for a Western thing, why did you choose Western? Was that something that's? Are you a fan of Westerns, or is that a?
Yeah, I am a fan of Western, and I've always had a bit of an obsession with why hasn't the Western been used in RPGs and things like that? Because I think it's such a fascinating sort of era where it's almost like a mythology. Like it's got everything. It's got you could squeeze in a bit of magic into a Western. You've got your outlaws, you've got your bounty hunters, you've got your lawmen. You've kind of got all the ingredients of all your classic RPG stuff. But there's plenty of stories about it, but it's not been used in that way. And I didn't want to write an entire book that was a Western. I wanted to sort of set off. I'm a big fan of books that kind of have a really small aperture at first, and then the world grows and becomes bigger than the first sort of scene. And it all starts Western, and obviously there's some Western characters that go on that journey, but it becomes something else. But I think the Western flavour to start with is beautiful. Love it.
I think it's interesting as well, because I mean, I don't know if you would agree, but it sort of feels like the whole Western genre is having a little bit of a resurgence at the moment, mostly via television. Yeah. Like the last maybe year or two, we've seen a lot coming out that is that kind of, outlaws, bandits, frontier spirit. Yeah. So it's, there's definitely an audience for it.
Yeah. I think there's been a bit of a strange thing over the last maybe sort of 10, 15 years where it used to be that gaming was kind of something that came out of the films, and now it's totally switched. And the likes of Red Dead Redemption, where people have actually got to put those cowboy boots on and explore that world freely, surely that's going to unleash your imagination. And yeah, I think stuff like that has had a massive impact. Definitely.
No, agreed. We will, however, say nothing about the upcoming Fortnite movie, because obviously opinions on that.
I don't even know about that.
I believe it's dividing opinions. I don't know whether this is a thing that's actually happening or is planned in, or if it's been filmed, or what is going on with it. But I've just seen a lot of people getting quite upset about it on social media. So we'll see what happens with that one.
people are upset on social media. But
that's a new phenomenon.
I mean, it must be true. If it's on social media, it must be true.
Yeah, it's just funny that no matter what, there's someone will be upset about something. But I didn't even know they were making a Fortnite movie.
I'm sure they are. Do you know what? I'm going to see if this is a real thing now. I'm just going to do a little bit of... Where is it?
So I'm a huge Star Wars fan for my sins, and obviously everything that comes out that's got Star Wars stamped on it divides opinion, no matter how good it is, how bad it is, and it can be quite tiring to see the massive objections to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
we all know it's not all good. It's not all bad, but
I'm back from a minor detour. It's the Borderlands, not Fortnite. It's Borderlands that's got everybody.
Oh yeah. I've seen the trailer. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that one. Yeah. Sorry about that. I just fell down the rabbit hole.
Well, Andor was good. Star Wars. So I thought Andor was
really good. Yeah. I think there's stuff. There's Star Wars that is, absolute genius that I adore, and there's Star Wars that is clearly not genius, but it's enjoyable to get in that world, and I'm quite easily pleased. There's a lot of things that have kind of had some sort of red flags for me in the Star Wars stuff recently, but I still enjoy watching them. I'm not going to get on my keyboard and start shouting and bawling about it.
I guess it's like a blessing and a curse, right? To get to achieve that level of success, you have your diehard fans, but you also have the people who are upset if things don't go the way that they want them to. So you can never please everyone. You can have a ultra successful franchise, and someone will be upset no matter what. Yeah.
I think recently there's been a bit of a culture change as well, where audiences or readers or listeners, I think they kind of feel like there's a bit more ownership than there used to be. Like, it used to be that this is the story or this is the film and this is it, and you like it or you don't like it. Now there's a bit more like, we own it and you've not gone the direction that we like, and we are upset about that. Case in point with Game of Thrones. Everybody, well, not everybody, lots of people hated that ending, and I was sat there going, well, it's kind of none of my business whether it's any good or not. Somebody else wrote it and made it, and I watch it and I like it or not. So yeah, I think, to be honest, a lot of that comes from things being so commercialised now. So when people are buying into a movie, they're not just watching the movie and then going away and then that's it. They're watching the movie and then they're watching the spin-off, they're buying the t-shirts, they're buying the mugs, the posters. They feel like they've bought into it. So in a certain sense, I can understand that sense of ownership. But I also agree with what you're saying, DB, is that at the end of the day, you've just got to either like something or not like something, and then just walk away from it. Yeah. Life is too short. Go and do something else.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, go and do something else and get some anecdotes so you can talk about them on an RPG.
Yeah. Spice up your life.
Speaking of which, she says, segueing really badly into the next section of our chat this evening, I want to have a little chat about music tonight, because we didn't really touch on music the last episode that we did. And I've been listening to a lot of new music. So I'm currently creating a Spotify playlist, which is being curated by some of the authors that are doing the panels and workshops at the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Spotlight in September. So that's going to be going onto social media really soon, once I've finished just putting the last few bits in it. And it's made me realise that obviously everyone has very diverse tastes in music, but there's quite a few of these artists and bands that were being chosen, by multiple different authors, film soundtracks, things like that. And it got me thinking about weird music that only I like, that no one else seems to have either, they've never heard of it or they don't like it. So my question for you, Steve and DB, is how do you feel about bagpipes?
I like bagpipes.
Yeah, I think they're they can be quite shrill. I instantly think about Korn, and they did a good job of using bagpipes.
I think Braveheart soundtrack is what my mind goes to.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
Good soundtrack.
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's a divisive instrument, I feel, but I have really gotten into not just bagpipes, but bagpipe crossover music. So bagpipe metal is a particular favourite of mine. There's
Nice.
a couple of artists that I follow on YouTube, which some of them have got pretty decent followings. So there's the Red Hot Chili Pipers, who are probably one of the bigger acts that do bagpipes. I don't know if either of you have heard of them. They do huge, like, New Year's Hogmanay shows. They are absolutely insane. They do like chart hits, rock and roll, like metal. Like they do like the classics as well. So they do like the Scottish classics. But yeah, their shows are something else. There's fireworks and drums and I don't know. DB, have you come across them before?
I don't know the name, but I have a bit of a penchant for a good cover band name, and that is a pretty good name. I like that.
It's a good one.
Up until now, my favourite cover band name is By Jovi.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah. I will definitely check that out. I like a kilt as well. I have to say, I'm a kilt fan.
Yeah, they do some really good live shows. I've missed the last two opportunities I had to go and see them. I unfortunately wasn't able to make it, and I was absolutely devastated. So I'm hoping at some point this year I will be able to go and see them live. But there's another artist as well, which I would highly recommend people check out. Which I think they've got quite a few followers on YouTube, so they're probably about the 700,000 followers mark, but they're called the Snake Charmer, and they are renowned for being India's first female professional bagpipe player, and their cover of Thunderstruck by AC/DC has got to be heard to be believed. It is absolutely fantastic.
Nice. Are we talking lots of percussion as well? I'm a drummer, so I do like to see anything that's sort of more cultural music. I like to see a lot of drums.
Yeah, there's
a lot of swing and drumsticks.
It depends on which videos that you watch, but there's a few where they've done like collaborations with other musicians. So some of them are collaborations with other pipers, some are with bands, and I think there's a few with like live orchestras. So it's a really good mix of musical genres. But yeah, so obviously I've now outed myself as bagpipe obsessed. DB, what are your weird musical tastes?
My weird musical tastes. So, I mean, I can't possibly do this interview without saying that on Saturday my band Terminal Sun put their first album out.
Oh.
So that I'm just throwing that in there because I've got to, because I'll be roasted if I don't. And Terminal Sun is kind of quite progressive death metal. I'm a big metalhead. I like pretty extreme music. I like a lot of stuff. I'm too old and long in the tooth to be stuck in a too much of a groove. But I like very intense, very heavy music that upsets a lot of people. Particularly vocal-wise, like our singer is a proper grunter, and that's not for everybody. But I like anything that, even if it's sort of too far out there, if it surprises me and it shocks me or it makes me feel something, I'm there.
Ah. Where can people find the album?
As of yesterday, it's on all the major streaming sites. It's we've got our own website. terminalsun.co.uk, I believe. The album is called All That Will Burn Is Already on Fire.
Great name.
And thank you. I like the name, yeah. And if you like metal, it's heavy, but it's got interludes. It's balanced. If you like metal, have a listen. It's written as an album rather than a kind of modern day streaming collection of 10 songs. So it's very much got a lot of, there's a journey there, and it's written that way. Not to sort of conflict with the modern world and the streaming, but just because we're all old men and we thought, let's actually write an album. So we did.
Who would you say, sound-wise, you're comparable to?
In terms of metal, we're quite diverse. So it's all heavy, but we do lots of. No song sounds the same as the last one. But having said that, I'm a big fan of Gojira. I'd like to think, if I may, that Gojira is kind of somewhere like where Terminal Sun is.
I saw them live 6 months ago, maybe longer. Oh, they were fantastic live.
Yeah, I've seen them live a couple of times. They are phenomenal. And they know how to get that, like that kind of that I'm saying about they know how to be heavy when they need to be heavy, but they don't need to prove anything either, so they can calm it right down and, and do the musical journey. And that's a thing that I think we do well.
That's pretty cool, though, having an album out. I do remember actually having seen that now when I looked at the website, seeing about the band, but I don't think I'd actually put two and two together about anything coming out. So, yeah, congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you. It was a long fight to get that album out, because we started recording it and then there was a major flood in the studio and all sorts of chaos that got in the way, and then COVID happened. So we've been kind of sitting on this album for quite a while with it finished, but just not with the component parts to actually release it until last Saturday.
So how long have you guys been together?
So this band is kind of an evolution of a previous band that we were together for about 15 years, but we kind of had a bit of a reshake and sort of woke ourselves up a bit, because we've been playing together for so long. We just got a bit sort of redundant, and then so that when we became Terminal Sun, I think we've been together probably 3-4 years. So our first gig, our fourth gig ever, was the first gig after COVID, which was at Bloodstock.
Oh wow!
So we've had quite a bizarre career so far. Very shell shocked, emerging from COVID, where it was illegal to practice for a while. It was illegal to be near other people, and then, right, do you want to go and play Bloodstock? So it was a pretty intense gig.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's probably more people in one place than you'd seen in the entire of the last year.
Yeah. There was definitely like moments of kind of walking about obviously in an outdoor arena and having that instinct to just avoid clusters of people, even though you're in a field and you just had to go through people. It's a really bizarre thing that we've all lived through.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to forget, aren't we, that it happened and actually how extreme it was. But, weird time warp as well. It sort of ate a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
In lots of ways.
Steve, you're looking far too relaxed there. So I'm going to flip the question over to you. So far we've got bagpipes, death metal. What's your weird music passion?
That's a great question. Well, I've actually been trying to get into metal more the last couple of years. So I've been dipping my toes into doom metal. I'm sure DB is probably familiar.
Yeah.
I was looking at my Bandcamp list here so I can kind of refresh my memory. But one of the ones that I've really been enjoying is Bell Witch, Mirror Reaper.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah. It's been some really good stuff. And also, my musical taste is kind of all over the place. But I've also been listening to stuff like Rollo Tomasi, which is more of like a shoegaze kind of.
Yeah.
And also
in the previous band I mentioned, we played with Rollo Tomasi before they were big, and don't want to sound like we are ancient, but they were the band whose parents brought all their gear. and we were these sort of grown men going, what's going on here? And then within months, they were huge and just keep getting bigger.
Yeah, it's wild. Bands fascinate me, just the dynamics and the history of all the different bands.
Yeah.
The other one that I've been into, and it kind of, I don't know, this might not be too predictable, but there's a band called Cigarettes After Sex. It's labeled as a dream pop band. It's more of a, I don't know, I can't really describe it, but it's very relaxing. But yeah, it's good stuff. So yeah, my musical stuff is all over, my musical taste is all over the place, but I've been really trying to get into metal. I think the problem I have with some of the metal is like the kind of getting like a rhythm with it, like kind of getting connecting with it like that. So I'm trying to expand my kind of learn different subgenres of metal, and doom metal seems to be the one that sticks out for me most. That's what I've been trying to dive into.
Do you know the band Meshuggah?
Yes, yeah. Actually,
rhythmically, like that is the one that will stew your mind.
Yeah, AJ Retger has been helping me with Meshuggah, kind of like helping guide me with that. Yeah, with my Meshuggah journey. Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, I think with metal though, because I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the stuff that I would consider metal, you guys would probably consider like pop. But I do struggle with the different genres. So you got you've got thrash metal, doom metal, nu metal, and I just really struggle to work out. I know who I like, but I have no idea into which kind of subgenres they all fit. I have to get on Wikipedia and look it up.
I would say keep your innocence and enjoy your music and don't even think about it. I think there's too much energy goes into what the label is. Just be happy and enjoy.
Yeah, no, I think that's good advice.
I think it could be said for books too, because I think subgenres are good because you can kind of drill down on what you're looking for, but I can see how it would be harmful too, because if someone labels something as, let's say, doom metal and it's really thrash or something, then someone who's into thrash may not find it because it's labeled. So it's, I guess it's like a double-edged sword where it's you want to appeal to the people who enjoy it, but you also don't want to be mislabeled or kind of everything has crossover. Nothing is just one thing. So that's what's kind of tough about having so many genres, because it's harder to find things when you want to look outside of your kind of focus.
So with Callan's and Crow, I had a lot of issues because as a new author, I had no idea how to launch a book, and I'll not go into the details, but I didn't do it very well. I just kind of arrived and went, "There's my book." But a lot of interesting questions came about when it was like, right, it's Weird West. So I suddenly found myself sort of pointing the book at the Western people, and then it was like, it's got a vampire in it, but you never see the word vampire in that book, because to me it's not a vampire. It's a character who's got some kind of weird curse who has to feed on blood, and it's more akin to heroin addiction than it is, sparkly vampires flying about and being romantic. So I didn't want to say it's a vampire book, but I found myself so lost in the having such a tiny voice in the book world. I had to connect myself to something that people could relate to, so I started pointing it at vampire people, and part of me kind of regrets that, because I've not written a vampire book. But you need something to get on the ladder, don't you? You need to be heard, otherwise no one's going to read it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's a struggle, because the number of different genres that there are now, and I think even with people who've got a couple of books out, this is something that they still struggle with. I put The Hallows out earlier this year, and even now people come up to me and say, "What genre is it?" And I'm like, "Well," and then it takes me half an hour to explain it, because it's 20 different bits of this genre and that genre, and it is a really tough sell. Like, marketing wise, it's It's a tough one.
Mm.
So, anyway, I've lost my train of thought there for a moment, but it's back, don't worry. Talking about genres that cannot possibly be mistaken for anything else, the next stop on our musical journey tonight is the little-known genre of bardcore. How much do you guys know about bardcore?
I only know about it because I think you mentioned on the forum, right? Bardcore?
Yes, I have been desperately trying to get people into this for a while now. So this is all part of my RPG journey. So I don't know, DB, if you do the same in your games, but I try to use a lot of music in my games for just, general atmosphere, setting tone.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm really obsessed with at the moment is using the bardcore genre, which is essentially medieval versions of contemporary music, because there is nothing better than having an exploring party sitting in a tavern, conversing about their latest plan or scheme, and then one of the party members suddenly going, "Is that Michael Jackson?" as they're listening to the music. It makes me laugh every time.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I had no idea, if I'm honest, about this until you shared that, and I am absolutely in favour of bardcore. Love it.
I feel I've changed your life for the better now.
Absolutely, yeah. The doors of perception have been wrenched open.
So kind of just to put the conversation on a bit more normal track, music-wise for your games, do you use music, or is that not something that you do too much?
I've not used music. It's something that I would like to, but I guess it's just always been another thing to try and manage. So I might put something on that generally fits, but it wouldn't be curated as well as it sounds like you do.
I'm not sure if it's curation or just a sort of inside joke that only I find funny, but I enjoy it, and the players seem to enjoy it, so that's fine.
Anything that puts the players in the world, really, I guess, is a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how do you feel about bardcore, Steve? Can you see yourself enjoying some medieval death metal?
Yeah, of course. I'm open to pretty much anything. The only music that I really can't get into is like the 80s hair metal stuff. Other than that, I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep.
There was a gasp.
It was a gasp of pure horror. Yeah, I'm pretty basic. I like a bit of hair metal. What can I say? I'm not ashamed of it.
I'm a firm believer that if a song's written well, then it'll always be a good cover, and now it'll always be a good bit of lute music.
Absolutely, or bagpipes, lutes and bagpipes.
Yeah, or bagpipes. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. I feel like bardcore's just killed the conversation off. Steve, do we want to have a look at the list? I know that the forum obviously have been throwing in some suggestions for projects that they want us to talk about, things they want to spotlight.
Yeah, so we can start with one of the mentions was for Truth of Crowns by Carl D. Albert, which is how do I describe it? It is not so traditional. It's more of a Shakespearean tragedy. So it's I wouldn't call it grimdark or dark fantasy, but lots of awful things happen to the characters, and I think it's hard to develop characters that you dislike, but then you don't want to see them fail because you dislike them so much. So you want to keep them around. Like, I think it's hard to develop characters like that, but I think Carl does a great job with his characters and with the. I'm always wary when I see love stories in fantasy, but he does a really great job with the love story and really touching portions of it. I mean, the characters have lots of awful things happen to them, and it can get dark, but it's a great book. So I'm glad it was mentioned on our list. So anyone who's, interested in, if that sounds interesting to you, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think I've got that one on my Kindle lined up to go. I mean, I say that I've got about 20 books on my Kindle lined up to go, and have had for about 5 years now. But I definitely know that I've got that one. Is it a series, do you know, Steve, or is it just a standalone?
Yeah, I think he just posted. He's working on book 2. And he's, I think, about halfway. I think we're still about another year away, I think, from book 2, just because of the cost of editing. And I'm sure I don't have to tell the two of you about costs involved with publishing and all that, you know better than I do. But and he's also working on a novella within the world, I believe. So we're a little bit of ways away, but we all need something to look forward to. So it's okay.
that aspect of kind of creating a villain that you manage to get people rooting for is quite important to me. I adore that. I really like. It's something I'm working on the sequel to Carlton Crow. I've got a character who's blatantly and unashamedly a villain, but I want everyone to adore him, and I want everyone to get him to succeed, because he's, I don't know, there's something about that perspective. If you throw a certain perspective at a character and you don't know the past, or you only know a thread of the past, and you want that person to succeed, that's, to me, that's the ultimate kind of suspension of reality. That's I love that. That's something, talking about music before, I'm a big Rob Zombie fan. Don't like all his films, but Devil's Rejects, that's why I adore that film, because you kind of see that horrific family and you absolutely root for them all the way through that film, despite how horrific and evil they are, and that's the point of them. But I think that's pure genius.
Good suggestion. I like that one.
And I think the rest of it was just people trying to convince me to join the D&D session.
We're going to wear you down eventually, Steve.
Oh, yeah, I want to. I will. Yeah, I'll join it. I'll join. I don't want to be the, kind of the wet blanket. Just like, what does this mean? And how do you do this? And how do you do that? And
I mean,
slow down
that's literally 90% of every conversation we have, Steve. I'll be honest with you.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
Well, so with ours, Matt has never played before, and he's the guy that's asking all the questions. But again, I just think that just gives it another element of, you will also learn something by watching this. So I think that's really good to have a newbie involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, I do just want to point out for the record that as much as we do laugh and joke and tease about it, we are in no way bullying Steve to come and join our game. It is entirely his decision, and anyone is welcome at our table. We've said this a few times, but it's not something that everyone wants to do. It's not something everyone feels confident with. So, it's all in good fun, peeps. It's all in good fun.
Yeah, for sure. It's not even gentle, passive bullying. It's more of just like, when you're ready, we'll be here, kind of thing.
Absolutely, and it's nice as well, because it is such an open door game that we play through the forums. There has been people that have come in for one game and enjoyed it, and they've gone, okay, I've tried it, I want to go off and do my own thing now, and gone to playing other games. There's people that have stuck through right from the beginning. It's really easy going. We're a very relaxed collective. But yeah, it's nice that someone shouted out for Carl, I think, there. Hopefully we'll get a few more suggestions as we do more episodes.
Yeah.
What else?
Lots of people doing some great stuff, for sure.
Absolutely. Just need to get people talking about it more. That's people need to start shouting out about these things that no one else has heard of. Okay, so going down my list of things to talk about, there's I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong now, so I apologise to them if I do, but there is a website that I've been using recently, which is called Chipeku, and they are a pair of artists who create maps and scenes for RPGs, various games. I obviously always talk about D&D because that's what I play, but a lot of what they do can be repurposed for all sorts of gaming systems. But they've got currently, I think, about 6,000 maps available across various different genres. So there's cyberpunk style stuff, there's your traditional fantasy, deserts, pretty much any scenario you can think of for a game. They have not only a map, but they also have a scene, so when you use it in the game, you can describe the scene and give people a visual image so they can see what the world looks like, which, if like me, you play a lot of online, really handy. They have a Patreon, which I think is like about $2, $3 a month, and for that you get every new map that they add. So they're very, very cool resource for anyone who's looking to get into that kind of thing, or even if you just want a map for inspiration for a book or something like that.
I think maps is one of those another thing that could easily detract me from my word count, and I could fall into designing maps forever. They are beautiful things, but I'm not allowed right now.
I don't know about designing maps. It took me about a week and a half to download them all. Just to do that. There's so many of them.
Yeah. Excellent.
But yeah,
that's a good resource.
Well worth checking out. DB, what about yourself? Have you been reading anything indie recently that you want to shout about?
See, I'm a big indie man, but I've accidentally stumbled into reading the Horus Heresy, the Games Workshop stuff, and I'm absolutely adoring it, and I feel guilty because I never really give it that much credit. I always thought it'd be a bit of a throwaway kind of space war with no real soul to it, and it's just so incredibly good, and I can't believe how wrong I've been. I mean, they're pretty old books now, and I'm firing through them, and it's absolutely lighting a fire under me. And it's also, I've kind of got a bit of a guilty new series that I started thinking about, which again I shouldn't be thinking about, but reading about space is not helping that particular issue. I say. But yeah, I would say if anyone thinks of the Horus Heresy as kind of space war, shallow, lots of guns, it is that, but it's wonderful in terms of like they're sort of exploring the veterans and the sort of shock and horror of war, and the people who aren't in the army but they're recording this massive sort of change in the universe. Absolutely incredible books so far. Anyway, I mean, there's a lot of different writers that do these books, so I might fall into a flat spot eventually, but can't recommend them enough.
I know you.
Am I allowed to not go indie? I feel a bit guilty.
No, do you know what? I felt really bad this week coming into this because I was like, I need to spotlight some indie authors. What have I read this week? And I thought, Bernard Cornwell. That's all I've read this week. Is Bernard Cornwell stuff. But I do know for a fact though that you do try to lift up and shout out other indie authors, because you're actually coming along to my event in September, and you're actually coming. You're bringing a friend, so.
I'm bringing a friend. Yeah. I'm bringing Carl Forshaw, who wrote Renier. There is an indie book, and it's incredible. And he lives in the same town as me. That's how we ended up meeting, and that's how we ended up exchanging books. And I was absolutely blown away by Renier. A really, really unique, excellent book. So hopefully he'll be talking about it a lot down in Shropshire. Shrewsbury, not Shropshire. We are going to the right city.
Yeah. Shrewsbury in Shropshire. We know where we're going. It's all good. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be nice to have you both there. It'll be nice to get a chance to meet Carl. What's the kind of genre? What's the premise of the book?
So it's a bit of a strange. I think that's probably why I like it. It's a very strange. It's a very academic, dusty old fantasy library type setting. It's got vibes of a sort of post-apocalypse. It's got noir kind of vibes. There's various things kind of unraveling, and there's a certain character that it was kind of almost playing the detective part, but it's the characters that bring the whole thing alive. So I wrote a review of it, and I jokingly described him as schizophrenic, and I made sure he was all right with me calling him that. But it's got so many different flavors that he absolutely adopts each one so well that it's almost like, are you all right? Is your mental health like all right that you can do that and that in the same book? And the characters are just, they're not contrived. There's characters who are set off almost as a bit of a trope, but they live and breathe, and they almost contradict their trope because they're alive and they've got opinions and they've got feelings that don't necessarily work with what kind of character they are, which is human life, isn't it? So yeah, it's all about the characters really. The setting is wonderful and it's unique, and it's a book that's not leaning on action to sort of get through the gate, and I think that's really brave in fantasy, that you can say, I've written a fantasy book, it's not got like 9 chapters of full-on war in it. Not that that's an easy way. I can't do that grand scale war stuff. But sometimes I think it is something that it's something that everyone will get hit from, action and battle. So to just get rid of it and write a story about not all humans, but about people who are interacting in a story is brave, and I think he's done an incredible job. So absolutely recommend. Renier, Carl Forshaw.
Nice, good recommendation.
I was looking at the blog, and I remember that our friend Tim Hardy had written a review for Valhalla Steel by Sean Crow.
Yeah. So
I wanted to give that a shout out to. I believe it's a novella too, so I think it's nice to have novellas once in a while, or short story collections. We all get used to the chonkers, but it's nice to have the shorter books too. It's a near-future dystopian fantasy in which gunning cyberpunk Vikings try to survive in the dangerous, violent world of Twilight City after being forced to flee their homeland. So it is from 2020, but still, go check it out. It doesn't have everything you read doesn't have to be fresh off the press. It can be things that are a little older. So we talk about 2020 like it was a lifetime ago, but
that is definitely already on my Kindle.
It's a great story. I'm a huge Sean Crow fan. Really good writer.
I mean, Vikings in a cyberpunk.
I mean, how can
world,
you go wrong?
What's going to go wrong? Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, no, there's some good recs there, I reckon. Couple to check out. I think I'm pretty much at the end of my list now. I've got a couple of other things I could potentially talk about, but we're nearing the hour mark, and as Steve has experienced before, we get to the 1 hour mark and I suddenly start talking absolute nonsense. So I think if we kind of just go into a bit of a wrap up at this point, is there anything that, Steve, that you wanted to bring to the table that we haven't chatted through?
No, I think that's about it. I think, I love doing this and shouting out people who it's hard to get a boost. I mean, it's hard to get your work in front of more people. So it's nice to come and have a positive kind of set out to just talk about what other people are doing. I think that's really neat. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Cool. DB, do you want to do a little shout out just to let people know where they can find your work? Steve, I'm totally taking over your job here. What's happening?
I'm loving it. It's so nice. I'm just relaxing.
So Callous and Crow is available on Amazon solely at the moment, digital and physical. I am cracking on with the next book. It's got an ending that if you are into the book, you will kind of suffer because I've not written the second book. So I apologise in advance, and I am working on the second book. Check it out. I've also got a few short stories that I'm putting out under the moniker of Shadows of the Collegiate. which I'm intending on eventually putting out either a novella or a book of shorts, possibly with other authors. And the only thing that links them together is a kind of building, so that it's very varied, different timelines, different everything. That's the thing that's going to be released before the next book, because I don't want people to forget that I exist.
So tough, isn't it? Publishing is such a tough gig. It really is.
Yeah.
So much respect for you guys. It's tough.
And working, I mean, that's the biggest problem for me. Trying to work and family and all that, and make progress. Very difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough balance to find, but we do it because we love it, and it's nice to have the opportunity to, shout out people, give them a bit of a spotlight, lift them up a bit. So we appreciate you coming on. It was really cool to hear about your death metal, thrash metal. See, I still don't know what sort of metal it is, but congratulations on the album. And yeah, it was really good to talk to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm honoured to be here, and I very much appreciate the opportunity. And I will see you in September.
Indeed, you will.
In person.
You will.
Very cool.
Go on, Steve. Take us home. Close us out.
No, that's your job. I was just going to mention there is a link in the description for the podcast to send us a message. So if there is someone you want us to shout out, feel free to drop us a message and let us know who, and we can go and find them and give them a shout on the next episode. Or, of course, talk to us on our forums. We have a thread there. Shout out your favorite book, music, whatever it is. We can give them a little boost.
Absolutely. Anything goes in this conversation. We're not limited to purely books, artists, authors, creators, bakers. Shout out your favourite baker. We want to know about them. But on that note, we will wrap it up. Always leave them wanting more. And we will see you guys another time. And thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.